All right, we have a technicality, but we've got it. Okay, to kind of begin with, I'll kind of give you a little bit of brief history of why this project has been developed and why we're looking at it. The aquifer covers about 174,000 square miles across 8 states in the high plains of Texas of the United States. And with this, about 95% of the total water is pumped just for irrigation out of the aquifer. So it is very vitally important to us. On the Texas South Plains, in the southern part of the aquifer, ag production area, this is the focus area of our program because this is kind of where we're living. If we look at from 1950 to current, we look at about 150-foot difference in loss in water over this area. And as you see down here, Lubbock is in this area, and the biggest loss is in the Hale County, Floyd County, Palmer County, and that part of the area of the state. If we look at how much saturated thickness has been lost over this same period of time, we see that about 50% of the total water has been lost. So this is one reason that we look at trying to make, and how important it is to try to make every drop count that we possibly can. Within the project originally started in 2004, and we have about 31 sites, and even in the area of the project site, we have lost about 25% of the total volume of water that we have had to start with. Some of the things that we've done is the High Plains Underground Water District has installed some electronic reading devices that we look at the water level, and we can go online and see these take place as it is, and they monitor these wells throughout the year. And as you can see, from 2012 to about 2014, we lost about 10 foot of water, static water level. And this was taken in the winter time of the year when we measured it. And that's about 3 foot per year if we look at that. If we look at the abandoned wells, there were some abandoned wells within the project, so we did look at those abandoned wells the same way with the same type of transducers and pressure regulators, and so it showed exactly the same thing, that there is definitely a steady decline. The Texas Alliance for Water Conservation, it all started in 2004 with $6.2 million that was given over 8 years, administered through the Texas Water Development Board. And in 2014, the original part of the program ended, but the state renewed funding for additional $3.6 million, and that is through 2019. The project is definitely producer-driven and board-directed. We as a board kind of set the stage for what we look at, current programs that need to be looked at, as well as what projects we would like to have done. The project objective is to develop and demonstrate new technologies, management tools and strategies that result in less water being used with enhanced profitability. Identify efficient crop and irrigation systems and impact producer decision-making processes. One of the things that what the project has never done is we have all these different projects and about 6,000 acres on all of it. As a board member and as a producer, we never influenced what the producer should be planted on his site. We left that up, and we was definitely going to look at making those, watch that person make the decisions on those. So we never influenced what crops was planted. We let the marketplace kind of decide what those crops were planted. So within the project, we had cotton monocultures, cotton and corn, grain, sorghum and cotton, cotton and cattle, grass cattle, And then we had a lot of specialty crops like sunflowers and seed sorghums and seed millets and those kinds of things. In each site, what we did do is we monitored the rainfall, the temperature, water applied, soil moisture. We used AquaSpy, CropSense, AquaCheck, and we also used the John Deere probes as well. We monitored the production inputs, plant and animal yields, and also the economic analysis, and this was all done through Texas Tech. Now what we kind of looked at several years, and what we did notice is in 2011 and 2010, it seemed like as a producer, we started noticing that people were getting away from from LEPA type systems on their sprinklers, and it was going to broadcast spray. And one of the things we figured out is that one of the reasons that producers was going away from that is that there was more and more narrow row crops being planted, like on 20-inch rows or 15-inch rows, and so people felt like that they need better coverage with their water. So of all the years, we picked 2011 to begin this, and if you remember, kind of go back to your brief memory, in 2011 it never rained. But we still looked at this as a part of the project. And so we compared LESA, which is low energy spray application, along with LEPA, which is low energy precise application. And so we used the Synerger 4-quad type nozzle. And so on the span, we used a single span on the pivot. And so we used the same amount of water application on each one of these. And to kind of give you a brief history a little bit, the pivot that we used pumps about 450 gallons a minute with 3 wells pumping into that pivot. So there is quite a bit of water still in that area right there that we used to demonstrate this. So in 2011, we harvested those sections separate, we had them ginned separate. And so to start off with, we thought, well, we'll look at that. So we had about $110 difference between broadcast spray and LEPA. And that was only 2 treatments that we used. And that was just kind of the net returns per acre. And so, well, then we had some people and thought, well, we'll do it again, thinking that just because we had a drought, there would definitely be a difference. In 2012, we did the same thing and almost identically the same results. In 2012, we had a little bit more rainfall, not much, but some. So here we come up with about $100 an acre difference between broadcast spray and LEPA. In 2013, we did it again. We did the same process, and we come up with about the same amount of money as far as a net price project return. And so here we had 3 growing seasons. So then, with the help of Dr. Sloan, we put some probes in each one of these treatments, starting with in 2011, comparing those, and even in 2000, we definitely used this is the 2011 data. But what we did notice is there is a difference between broadcast spray and LEPA. And the LEPA was on 80-inch centers, so every other furrow was being irrigated. What we did notice is that the LESA did not penetrate the soil profile as deep, and so not as deep as what the LEPA did. And you can see that as well in the probe data from the both comparisons. And when we irrigated it, the LEPA on the 80-inch centers definitely wet deeper and faster. One of the things that probably makes the pivot that we have this project on rather unique is that we looked at the R7 with the Winfield product, and this is probably the flattest ground that we could ask for, and all the same soil type. So there's no variances in the soil profile at all. So one of the things in 2006, we had a lot of people that was interested in the data that we was looking at from LEPA to LESA. And so there was several vendors that come together, and they asked us whether we would look at several different other things, and we decided to. So we kind of expanded this part of the project. And so what we did is we took this pivot and we split it up using the whole span as a demonstration. And so on the outside, we used LDN nozzles with the little hoods on the top that kind of makes it still a LEPA. Then we used LEPA on 40s. So what we did is we had a drop every furrow, and we used the Synerger 4 quad LEPA bottles on that. Then we had the LEPA on 80s, which is kind of what I use generally as all my operation. We also applied the PMDI, which is Precision Mobile Drip Irrigation, or Dragon Line, and we set that up. And then we still compared the LESA on it. And in 2014, whenever we started this, we kind of had some, or 2015 when we started this, we took the data and we lost all the cotton on the project. So we planted corn where the cotton was, and we had some technicalities, and we kind of come up with, we thought our calculations was not correct. So this past year in 2016 is what we have done is we've installed regulators, pressure regulators on all of the pivot, so everything is all kind of equal. And before I'll stop, there's definitely some people that put a lot of time and effort on this. And I would like to thank Diversity D, Irrigation, Equipment Supply here in Lubbock, Synerger, Lindsay Zematic, AquaSpy, and Netafim. And all these guys were a great help to help us do this part of the demonstration. And then what we've had is this summer we had Juan Cantu fly this with a drone, and so we did take some pictures to kind of show what the wetting pattern of each one of these drops were. And so this is the LDN and on 80s. This is the LEPA on 40s. This is the LEPA on 80s, and as you know, there's probably going to be a dry row. And to kind of give you a brief history on the field, this was in sorghum last year, planted on 20-inch rows, and all I did was come in and use a strip till plow to plow in between these stalks. And so that's where the cotton was planted, and so then the drops are between those. And we try to keep as much residue on the soil as we possibly can. This is the PMDI. And I'll kind of go through these fast because Dr. Sloan is going to definitely give some good information on the wetting and how this all turned out. And then this is the broadcast spray. And I think the real takeaway of the project is what we've learned is the main thing. The less gallons per acre per minute that we have on these pivots is that we have to get those out of broadcast spray, because the less irrigation we have, we cannot overcompensate the inefficiency of a broadcast spray. We're looking in broadcast spray of about 60-65% efficient, where we're looking in the LEPA and the PMDI and some of those about 90% efficient. So I think the goal is to try to get the water into the soil profile. So let's look at the 2016, the grain. I had part of this pivot under grain sorghum, and part of it under cotton. And this is some grain sorghum that was planted on 20-inch rows. And so I will make a note, as we see is the LEPA on 80 on the LDNs on the very outside of the pivot. we was the lowest yield, and so I will share with you, it probably had the highest insect pressure from sugarcane aphids and green bugs, and also is on the southwest side of the field. And so, as you know, July was not very friendly to crop production, and so it did kind of take its toll on that. The takeaway is the LEPA on 80s and the PMDI were the winners of this and had the highest yield. We applied about 12 inches of water per acre on this field. If we look at the cotton, I'll share with the cotton too. So we just got the cotton harvested, and it was ginned. And as you can see, the broadcast spray, even though we're saying it's not the best irrigation system, it come out the winner on this year. To make a note of it, I had this section harvested prior to a rain event, and all the rest of the treatments were harvested after a rain event. But the grade does not show that the rain affected the grade. The turnout was a little bit different. To kind of make a note of it, the broadcast spray probably took the advantage of the rainfall that we had in August and September more than any of the treatments that we had. Kind of what we did is we used a lot of AquaSpy probes, thanks to AquaSpy and David. What we did is we applied one in the seed furrow, one 10 inches from it, and one in the bottom of the furrow. And one reason what we're doing this is we're trying to see where that water goes within the soil profile. And one of the things that we always learn is that rainfall definitely makes a difference, especially when we get less and less irrigation. We become more and more dryland farmers, and definitely rainfall does make a difference on how we handle this. And when I look at this, if we look at the average, and we look from 2005 to 2016, if we make note of August and September here, we've got almost 7 3/4 inches of rain on the project site. And so that is, probably pretty much unheard of. It's even unheard of that we get a 2-inch rain in January as well, just that we've got. So, and to make note, I'm fixing to be winded up. There is one thing I will have to say that I have learned through the project is when we look at water management, everything doesn't always work out to plan. You can plan, you can calculate and everything, but sometimes Mother Nature just does not give you the full deal. So what this is I had a full circle. The shaded in area, it was a field of corn that was planted behind some cotton, and that was this year, and the other part of the circle was seed millet. About the middle of July, I realized that we did not have enough water, and it was not meeting the crop demands on the corn nor the millet. And so what we did is we did some calculations, and what I did is I abandoned about 30 acres of corn. And what I did is I left it there, and we just stopped it, and we turned the pivot around. So with that in mind, what we did is the corn that we still watered made about 120 bushels. And the corn that we abandoned made right at 50 bushels because the rain that we had in August and September definitely helped me out. But what I'm saying is when you really get into a wreck, all it takes is a little bit of calculation, a little bit of math, and you can figure out to keep from having a total disaster. Because if I would have kept on irrigating it as it was, the whole field probably would have made about 50 bushels instead of just a small part of it. So our goal is to maximize water use and efficiency and profitability, and that's the goal of production agriculture, and that's kind of what we look at. And I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to visit with you, and I will be around all day. And so if you have some questions, I'll be more than happy to visit with you and share with you. Kind of make note of all this. visiting with Dr. Sloan and stuff, I know we didn't answer a lot of questions, we just created more questions. And so we've already had some ideas for next year to look in what we're going to do with the project and how we're going to do some water monitoring. And but I do appreciate it. I hope this is a beneficial information for all of you. Thank you.